Right now, the biggest athletes in the world are sitting on the sidelines, but that hasn't stopped them from going all in to raise millions of dollars for those in need.
Families are hurting out there that need our help, need our prayers.
And these ESPN hosts aren't sitting courtside.
Sports, like most other things, have just basically come to a complete halt.
But their passion for the game has never been stronger.
To be able to still do it during this time, it just fills you with a lot of gratitude and a lot of responsibility.
So let's check in. Hi, I'm Michael Koenigs, and we're devoting this episode of More in Common to sports and the incredible athletes who continue to inspire us even during the shutdown. We're starting off with a NASCAR driver, Daniel Suarez, who's still putting the pedal to the metal on the digital track.
There is some people that they still see and treat this as a game, but this is not a game anymore.
Hey amigos, Daniel Suarez here, ready to go racing for the first time.
Good to check in with you, Daniel.
Thank you, man. How are you doing?
Not bad, but sorry to see you're off the road for a bit, but still doing some iRacing, huh? How has your world changed? Here you're usually racing around the track, but now you guys have moved a lot of the races into the digital realm.
It's a difficult situation, and we are one of those few sports that we're very fortunate that actually we can do, virtual games like this and be able to entertain the fans. We're lucky to be able to do that. There is a lot of things that we're still playing around and we're still understanding and learning, but it's been fun for sure.
When you go on these races online, how does that differ from driving an actual car? I assume it's a big difference.
Oh, it's totally different. I mean, at the end of the day, this virtual racing is just a game, right? You don't have to be a professional race car driver to actually be good in the game. There is some amazing race car drivers that they are horrible in gaming, and there are some drivers that are great in gaming and they're horrible in real life. So the problem here is that you have a game and then you start streaming these races and then you put real race car drivers and then you put the sponsors and something that is a game starts to become a real racing, real business. You have to behave as a real race. We do have real consequences.
So Daniel, can you give us a little bit of background about your career?
My career is a little bit different than most of the drivers because I don't come from a racing family or from a money family either. I started racing kind of late. When I was 11, I was trying to come to the United States, finally made it here, but the first 2 years I was here, I spent more time trying to learn the language and trying to learn the racing communities. It has taken a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice, not just for myself, but for my entire family.
When you're racing, whether it's in iRacing or on the real track, what keeps driving you to love this sport and be so devoted and passionate about it?
There's not a lot of sports out there that can give you the adrenaline that NASCAR or racing can. I can't wait to go back to real racing. Everything that is happening in the world right now really is very bad, but in a way, it's a lesson for all human beings and trying to be more thankful for everything that we have and trying to be a better person and to make a better world for everyone.
Yeah, I just love that thought. That's what the show is really all about, is how do we, stay connected even during a time of social distancing. And looking forward to cheering you on when you're back on the track.
Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it.
Have a good one. Next, we're checking in with ESPN host Mike Greenberg, who's going to talk about how the state of sports has changed, but how it can still bring us together.
When I got to ESPN, it was 23 years ago. Everything has changed in the world since then.
So good to check in with you here, Mike.
Well, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Talk about how your world and the world of sports has changed here.
I mean, in almost every way. Sports, like most other things, have just basically come to a complete halt. The only thing that we have really had to cover has been the National Football League in their offseason has gone on. Those are things that work just fine with social distancing.
So he isn't going to be the first quarterback in this draft. At least that's not what we expect.
But the other sports, basketball and hockey and football and tennis and golf and everything else that we typically cover, we're just like everyone else, sort of waiting for them to come back. Our job has been to try and find ways to make entertaining programming at a time when there just aren't any games going.
With those finals, NBA, NFL, I mean, those are championships that have happened, almost every year for all time. This might be the first time that they're canceled or dramatically changed. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to maintain an optimistic approach, a hopeful approach, because optimism and pessimism cost the same. I do think that the likeliest way we will get the championship in basketball this year, the championship in hockey this year, any semblance of a baseball season, because those are the sports that would be going on right now. They don't have the luxury of time. The NFL season isn't scheduled to start until September. They haven't missed anything yet. I think the most realistic chance we have of seeing those sports will be without fans. We played in empty arenas and empty stadiums. If you look at the example of what they're doing overseas, it's really fascinating. We had a baseball player on named Dan Stralia. He's over in South Korea, and their season is starting.
Yeah, every time we walk into the baseball field, we have to pass in front of a thermometer camera that, like, if you're over a certain temperature, the alarm goes off. We cancel whatever we had practiced or scheduled for that day, and that person goes and gets tested.
Do you think the athletes in general, their behavior is going to change after this, or do you think in terms of training, getting ready for these seasons?
Absolutely, yes. I think that's an incredibly important point. So during other periods of time where we've had stoppages like this, players could continue to work. They could continue to work out even if they weren't playing. Well, right now they're sheltered in place in their home, wherever they may be. Almost every gym, maybe every gym in America is closed. They can't access those. So it's, I think, very reasonable to assume that whenever they're able to get back, they're not going to be in the kind of physical condition that they're accustomed to being in. So I think there'll be a period of time where they have to work those guys into the right kind of shape before they can even consider starting to practice, much less start playing games. Otherwise, I think you'll see a lot of injuries. So this is changing everything. And the one thing that it has, because I know that we want to focus, I know that the thrust of your program is to focus on sort of the positive here. And I think that I'm hopeful that all of us who love sports, and I hope that the notion of being able to sit down on a Sunday afternoon and on my sofa and just putting on a ball game, I hope it's something that I will appreciate more when it comes back. And I hope that we will all feel that way, and I hope that in that way it'll bring all of us, this huge community of sports fans that we have together, a time when sometimes, in our country, in our debate, we feel like we're being pulled apart. Maybe sports, in this case, can actually do what it does best, which is bring people together.
I deeply appreciate your guidance here as we're checking in with you.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for having me.
Hey, we're checking in now with the best things buzzing online. Now check out this sports duo in Switzerland, dribbling and passing the ball between their two windowsills, very much on the edge. They ended up being safe, but risky way to have that social distancing and still enjoy their favorite sport. And the Australian Football League is starting up. They've got no stadium fans, but they do have a lot of energy as their team heads out onto the field here for the season opener. Now this guy, an inspiration to us all. I hate unloading the dishwasher, but this man's turned it into a sport, unloading the entire thing in less than 60 seconds while his roommate films. They're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, setting an example for the rest of the country here. Can you break the 60-second mark as you unload? Those are our stories for today. On the social side of things, be sure to follow our Facebook page for a lot more of that. Even though the NHL hockey season has been cut short, the junior San Jose Sharks have figured out a way to have some fun. They're passing the puck, well, I should say the toilet roll from player to player.
It's a 14U AAA Junior Sharks girls team, so 13 and 14-year-old girls. Really great season for us that we were building throughout the year. These girls really developed strong friendships and relationships over this season.
I'm used to being at the rink like 2, 3, 4 times a week, seeing these girls and going on the ice with them.
Always expecting to see each other again, and then suddenly we don't even know when we're going to see each other again. It was heartbreaking.
Our goalie, Christina Atchison, so she had suggested it.
I think without us all being able to see each other again, that it like kind of brought us together as a team, and also it was just a fun way, like a fun video to have.
Players jumped all over it, and I thought it was a great way for our players to be socially connected while they're physically distant.
Just seeing like the toilet paper travel through the screen, like it was nice to see all of my teammates and all of those smiling.
We're pretty adept at juggling balls and pucks. Juggling toilet paper is actually a lot harder than it may seem.
It took a couple of tries to get it how I wanted it to look.
The toilet paper is kind of a different shape than a puck or a ball, so it definitely took at least 20 tries to get the right look.
I think it's great how everyone just like kind of came together.
We joked about it. We're like, yeah, the NHL should repost, the Sharks should repost.
But we didn't expect it to actually happen.
It feels like I'm a part of like something that's bigger.
Like, it's kind of cool to like be recognized for that.
But I think we're in our own way showing how women's sports in general need to be recognized more.
It just like really shows how like a sport can bring people together, no matter like what level, you know, nationality, anything, you know, it really brings people together.
We're really, really fortunate in our hockey community here that the big Sharks are so supportive of the junior Sharks and youth hockey in the Bay Area. And what amazing memories for these girls growing up in the sport of hockey to be able to have such an experience.
Next, we're checking in with ESPN anchor Hannah Storm, who has ideas about how sports might continue to evolve during this time, and talk about her own memories of covering Michael Jordan's career, featured in The Last Dance. You're the legendary host at ESPN and have talked to so many fascinating stars. My favorite recently, I grew up in Colorado. You just talked to Peyton Manning. How are the athletes holding up?
It was great. I love talking to him. He is A, hilarious, B, totally gets what's going on, you know, really understands the totality of what we're going through. I think this has been a great opportunity to connect with athletes because we don't have a lot of highlights and things to talk about. So we have been dialing people up, talking to them in their homes, which is always cool to see.
With the All-In Challenge, he and so many other athletes are really doing their best to help out communities across the country.
A lot of families are hurting out there that need our help, need our prayers, and I'm proud to accept this All-In Challenge to help those families in need.
So for instance, he is going to travel to wherever the highest bidder is, golf with them, and then take them and a bunch of buddies out to dinner at a local restaurant to support that. Russell Wilson and Sierra are doing a double date, which I think is really cool. I love the two of them personally, so to me that would be my favorite. But you've seen everything from, you know, TikTokers to athletes with these really unique and cool ideas that they came up with for the All-In Challenge.
I'm going to donate with me 3-on-3. I'll play with 5 other people. So 6 people, I'll be on a team, and I'll rotate teams.
With the NBA and NFL tournament being disrupted, but on the bright side, the Michael Jordan doc, which you were interviewed for, is now a big part of the conversation. What do you think of that doc?
Yeah, I was really happy to be part of The Last Dance. I got to cover Michael Jordan for his entire career, so how cool is that? I feel so privileged. I was there for pretty much all his great moments. We all sort of know about the flu game and the shrug game and Craig Elo and all those other incredible moments, but I think really hearing those backstories and seeing a lot of the footage that's never been seen before is just so cool.
How do you think society without sports is going to be able to find that kind of enthusiasm, that rah-rah spirit?
Yeah, I think it's really hard because not only are we physically distanced right now from each other, but we're not able to participate in those kinds of things that bring us all together. We can't all watch together live because that's what's so cool, right? You know, you're there, I'm here, but we're all watching it together. And we're able to have this dialogue, we're able to have that shared experience. So I think that is really tough to not be able to have.
I just appreciate your enthusiasm for this and helping us get through this time.
Thanks. Yeah, you know, I gotta say that I'm really happy that we continued SportsCenter. I think that people need a relief from the news. The news can get very, very difficult, very depressing, and I think that you just need something else to watch. And, you know, as always, we open and close every show thanking all the real heroes, you know, all the people who are working so hard to keep our country going and to keep us safe. To be able to still do it during this time, that it just it just fills you with a lot of gratitude and a lot of responsibility to keep doing that.
Next, we're checking in with KGO's Larry Beil about some of the more unusual sports that might be featured on TV right now. You're no longer on these fields and out covering the usual games, but what's going on in your world as a sports broadcaster?
Well, obviously we don't have highlights anymore, so that's challenging on a night-by-night basis. But one of the interesting things that's occurred is because of the advent of social media, we have so many athletes that are posting daily. I mean, in the Bay Area, Steph Curry, he's a content machine. Every day he's either talking with Dr. Fauci or he's FaceTiming with nurses on the front lines just to try to get the message out, especially when it comes to social distancing. I think it does resonate more with certain people and certain fans who are like, okay, if Steph Curry says I got to stay home, I should probably stay home.
As best we can, practice social distancing so we can get rid of the spread of this virus as soon as possible.
And what do you think about kind of the Ocho on ESPN and the way some of these channels have changed their coverage to focus on what are pretty obscure sports?
You know, I discovered team handball. This was a sport I didn't even really know existed. So I flip it on and suddenly Denmark and Sweden are locked up in a battle. We actually ran the horse challenge last night, the NBA horse championships, and Mike Conley, he was the horse challenge king because he happened to be playing against Zach LaVine of the Bulls, who had the misfortune of playing outside, and I don't know where he was, but it started to rain. It's riveting TV nowadays.
In what ways do you think sports will come back?
I really believe the first step back is going to be games with no fans in the stands. And the ratings on TV will be gigantic because we're all starved for sports, but I think that's probably the safest way that we can slowly, incrementally work our way back to whatever the new normal is going to be.
Well, looking forward to that day, but in the interim, we'll have these other various modes to watch. And thank you for your guidance of that world.
Take care.
Thanks so much for watching our show today, and be sure to check in with your own family, friends, and neighbors in the days ahead. And maybe work out in the backyard.